My king must pick me since I'm washing his gates. He must pick me since I'm washing his roof.
Welcome to African Folktale Nation. This is an original story which was written, edited, and produced by Mumu.
When two women compete for a man's love, attention, and choice, the outcome is never what either of them expects. But before we get into this story of desperation, sacrifice, and self-awakening, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments which country you're watching from. As always, we love knowing who's part of our community. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Jessica stepped inside Stephen's house and froze. Her eyes couldn't believe what they were seeing. Stephen stood there, and Rachel, his supposed cousin, was kissing him. The door creaked properly, announcing Jessica's presence, and both Stephen and Rachel jumped like children caught stealing meat from the pot. "Is this how you people greet in your family?" she asked, her voice sharp enough to cut through the room. To understand how Stephen ended up in this situation and how all three of them found themselves standing in that living room like fools, we have to go back a bit. Stephen was known in the area as an ambitious young man. He had endless ideas, but never enough money to turn any of them into reality. That boy get oil for him head, but he not get fire to take use and cook, people often said. Still, ambition plus sweet talk plus good looks will always be a dangerous combination, especially in a city like Lagos, and Stephen wore all three like a uniform. Because of all those qualities, he had both Rachel and Jessica meticulously arranging their lives around him. Rachel had met him at the market, on a day that felt ordinary until it wasn't. She'd been helping her friend Debbie sell roasted corn, heat curling up from the charcoal, smoke clinging to her clothes, when Stephen stopped to buy some. He didn't have enough money to add coconut, but he made it sound like a joke instead of lack. "Fine girl, you go allow me chop corn without coconut?" he'd asked, smiling, already sure of her attention. Rachel gave it to him without thinking twice. It wasn't just a sly compliment. It was the way he talked, the ease, the sense that something was beginning. Rachel had lost both her parents while she was still in university, but finished her degree through stubbornness and necessity. When she came to Lagos, she came with expectations that didn't quite materialize, and after a while, she did what many people do when the city refuses to open its doors. She adjusted the dream. If rich men went falling from the sky, then she would find a man who was ambitious and build with him. Stephen fit neatly into that plan. He talked about the future like it was a promise already halfway kept. He never called her his girlfriend, but he acted like she was when it mattered. She learned to tell herself that labels were small things and that patience would eventually be rewarded. Jessica's story didn't begin so differently. She met Stephen at a small restaurant. He was sitting there, empty-handed, doing the quiet mouth of how to stretch very little into something usable when Jessica walked in and placed a generous order without hesitation. That was enough for him. He told her, "Do you have a name, or can I just call you mine?" And before long, she was paying for both their meals, laughing, listening, and letting the conversation roll forward. Rachel had spent most of her life in the village and came to Lagos with the kind of hunger that doesn't allow for going back. Her mother always reminded her that hustle was good, but marriage was better, and time was moving whether she liked it or not. If she saw any man who was interested in her, she should hold him tight. Jessica didn't need much convincing. At 27, she already felt like her time was running out. So when Stephen appeared with all his charm and ambition, she decided to commit to suffering with him, believing that the reward would come later. Like Rachel, she didn't mind that he never officially defined what they were. She filled in the gaps herself. For months, Stephen kept both women in motion, separate and unaware, enjoying the benefits without the inconvenience of honesty, until the afternoon he got bored, wanted company, and made the mistake of calling them both. He called Rachel first. "I may not come, I'm helping my friend." He called Jessica next. "I'm already on my way." Jessica arrived, and they were talking and laughing when the knock came. Before Stephen could even stand up, Rachel's voice followed. "Stephen, it's Rachel." He froze. He had forgotten to tell Rachel not to come anymore. Then he turned to Jessica. "Listen," he whispered. "That's my cousin." Jessica frowned. "Your cousin?" "Yes, distant cousin from my mom's side. She's very nosy. If she sees us together, she'll go and tell my mom that I found a wife in Lagos and didn't inform anybody. Please, just help me. Pretend you are my cousin too, from my dad's side. Jessica stared at him. Stephen, this is weird. I know, he quickly said. Just this once, please. She frowned, but nodded. Fine. Stephen exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath, and went to the door. He stepped outside and saw Rachel standing there, arms folded, already suspicious. Why did you take so long? She asked. Stephen smiled. My distant cousin is inside. For my dad's side, very nosy girl. If she sees us together, she'll go and tell my family that I found a wife in Lagos and didn't tell them. I beg, just help me. Rachel blinked. So what do you want me to do? Just pretend you're my cousin too, for my mom's side. Just for today. Rachel frowned, then shrugged. Your family plenty. Stephen laughed. You don't even know. He opened the door and led her inside. The afternoon passed in strange politeness, the three of them talking around the truth, each woman adjusting herself to fit the role she'd been assigned. Eventually, Jessica stood up. I'm tired. I'll be going. She left. Rachel exhaled dramatically. Thank God. I didn't know how long I could pretend to be your cousin. She leaned in and kissed him. Outside, halfway down the road, Jessica stopped. My phone, she muttered. When she walked back in and saw them, the room cracked open. So you kiss your cousins now? Rachel straightened. Excuse me, can you mind your business? It is because of gossiping cousins like you that Stephen and I had to lie all afternoon. Jessica turned slowly. You're his cousin, not me. Silence. They both looked at Stephen. He swallowed. I'm sorry. For a brief moment, the room went strangely still, and in that pause, something shifted for both of them. Stephen had lied, yes, but as they searched for the sharp edge of betrayal, they found something duller instead. The uncomfortable truth that he had never actually made things official, never said the words that would have made this unforgivable. Whatever they thought they were, it had all lived in assumptions, in hope, not in anything he had named. And so the lie about cousins lost its weight, because the real problem wasn't that Stephen had two women, it was that he hadn't picked one. And if he hadn't chosen, then the choice was still open. They looked at each other again, this time with clearer eyes, and in that look was the same unspoken conclusion forming in two separate minds. This is about who he will value more. Rachel scoffed and walked away. Jessica took her phone and walked out without another word. Outside, anger found company. I don't care if you're his cousin, your auntie, or whatever you are. Stephen is mine. Rachel laughed. Please, you need to wake up. That man is mine. I know the work I've put in. Nobody is coming to collect him from me. Jessica nodded once, then let the best woman win. From the window, Stephen watched them go, smiling to himself. And that was how it started. What came after could only be described by some as a pick-me battle. Rachel and Jessica fought unashamedly for Stephen's attention, affection, and above all, his choice. Rachel went first, and she started small. She came to his place with a nylon bag clutched tight against her chest, the kind of grip you only use when you are afraid you might drop something or be caught with it. She hadn't asked Debbie before taking the corn and coconut. She told herself she'd replace it later. Told herself it didn't count as stealing if the intention was good. King of my heart, she said as soon as he opened the door, smiling too wide. I brought food for us. Stephen raised an eyebrow. She opened the bag and revealed the corn and coconut. Don't you remember, she said quickly, the first day we met, when I gave you coconut for free and we stood there talking about your dreams and everything you want to do with your life? He paused, then smiled. I remember. Good, she said, relief flooding her voice. Then let's eat again. They sat and ate. When they were done, he stood up, stretched, and said, I'll walk you to the gate. That was all. No talk of the future or choosing. Still, Rachel told herself it was fine. It was still early. Jessica decided to be bolder. That same week, she knocked on his door, practically vibrating. Stephen, I have a surprise for you. When she entered, she turned her back to him and lifted her top, revealing his name, carefully drawn in henna, across her back. His smile froze. Is that permanent? She laughed quickly. No, temporary, but I can make it permanent if you want. He stared a second longer than necessary, then nodded. It's cute. That was it. He gave her a kiss on the cheek, then walked out of the living room. Jessica stayed where she was, disappointment burning quietly in her chest, but she swallowed it down. This was only the beginning. After that, it became noise. Constant, ridiculous noise. My second god on earth. My kidney. My liver. Stephen laughed through it all, basking in their attention, appreciating the effort just enough to keep them hopeful. Then one day, Rachel came over and stopped short in the doorway. "This place is a mess," she said, looking around. "How do you live like this?" He shrugged. "Bachelor life." She tilted her head, something clicking into place. "Okay," she said, smiling. "Let me show you what life with me would be like." She started with the living room, swept, mopped, and rearranged. Then the bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom. When she was done, she went to him and said, "Bring your dirty clothes." He didn't hesitate and brought everything. She washed all of it. Shirts, trousers, towels, even his boxers and underwear. Nothing was off limits. Then she stepped outside and frowned at the compound. "No," she muttered. "This won't do for my king." She grabbed a broom and started sweeping. Neighbors peeped out. "Ah, this girl is desperate," one woman said. Another laughed. "Leave her. Go, girl." Rachel kept sweeping. When she finished, she came back out with soapy water and an iron sponge and began scrubbing the gate, sweat rolling down her face, her heart full. Stephen watched, stunned. A neighbor called out, "Guy, wait till you promise this girl." Stephen laughed, shaking his head. "I no promise her anything." Oh. By the time Rachel was done, the sun was already sinking. She dragged herself inside and collapsed beside him on the couch. He was watching TV, relaxed. "Are you done, Superwoman?" he asked. She laughed weakly. "Yes." She looked at him with a hopeful expression. He patted her head. "Get some rest," he said. "You can sleep here, but you'll have to leave early tomorrow. I'll be busy." That was all. When Rachel left the next morning, something felt different. For the first time, the voice in her head didn't say try harder. It whispered something else instead. What if no matter what I do, it will never be enough? Then came Jessica's big show of affection. She arrived a few days later, early in the morning. Stephen welcomed her easily, pulling her into a quick hug before sighing. "Jessica, there's no food though. We might just have to drink Gary today." She laughed immediately. "Ah, my second god on earth, drink Gary, not on my watch." Before he could even respond, she was already tying her wrapper tighter, mind made up. In her head, the thought felt simple and absolute. After today, he won't have a choice but to choose me. She went straight to the market with her own money. Yam, rice, beans, pepper, onions, she got them all. She stood for a long time in front of the chicken seller before finally nodding and paying. She herself hadn't eaten chicken in almost 6 months, but she pushed that thought aside. This mattered more. Back at the house, she didn't waste time. The kitchen came alive. Rice washed, beans sauteed, pepper blended. Jollof bubbled gently on one burner, yam porridge thickened on another. Then came the akara, her mother's recipe, the one her mother had taught her slowly, carefully, saying, "The day I made this for your father, the next day he proposed." As Jessica fried, she whispered a small prayer under her breath, hoping history would repeat itself. When she was done, she served Stephen the akara and pap. He took one bite and froze. "Oh my God, Jessica," he said, eyes lighting up. "This is excellent." He didn't stop. 1 akara, 2, 3. By the time he reached the 6th, she was smiling so hard her cheeks hurt. "There's more where that came from," she said softly. He followed her into the kitchen and stopped short. "Jessica, this food is plenty. I can't finish all this by myself." "Oh," she said lightly. "Don't worry, just call your friends. Let them eat too." He laughed. "Ah, okay now." He pulled out his phone. "Guys, there's food." That was all it took. Minutes later, the house was full. 4 of his closest friends, eating, laughing, wiping oil from their hands. This food is serious, so, "Guy, you must marry this one. Our wife, our wife." They kept saying it, laughing as they did. Jessica laughed too, heart swelling, not realizing they were laughing at her, not with her. Later that night, Jessica's heart swelled with pride as she washed the dishes. In the living room, Stephen's phone beeped. He picked it up, reading slowly, word by word, making sure what he was seeing was real. Then he jumped to his feet and shouted, "Finally! Thank God!" His friends looked at him confused. "Waiting soap?" one asked. Grinning, Stephen held up his phone. "I finally got the money from that risky investment I made a few months ago," he explained. "It's enough to start my business." The realization hit them, and the men around him jumped up too, cheering and clapping him on the back. "Bro, we know how hard you've worked for this. Congratulations," one of them shouted, grinning. "Don't forget us when you blow," another added, laughter bubbling through the room. Jessica, still at the sink, could hear everything clearly. The house was small enough that the sound carried, every shout and laugh reaching her ears. She smiled to herself, heart full. He had been working toward this for so long, and now he finally had the means to make his dream a reality. And yet, even as happy as she was, a small pit of unease settled in her stomach. He still hadn't made anything official between them. She left the kitchen, heading for the bathroom. Her mother's voice was the only one she trusted to give her sound advice in moments like this. She dialed quickly, explaining everything, how she'd met Stephen, how kind and ambitious he was, how she had helped him whenever she could, and, just overhearing tonight, how he finally had the money to start his business. Her voice faltered at the end. "Mom, I really like him, but he hasn't made it official yet. Should I just leave him, or should I keep chasing him? There's another girl in his life too, and I don't know if he'll choose me." Her mother's voice came stern. "Jessica, stop this nonsense. You have a handsome, hardworking man you've invested your time, energy, and heart into. Who do you want to leave him for? You will stay and make sure he makes it official. If you have to climb his roof and wash it, then do it." Jessica smiled, a mix of determination and love in her eyes. "Okay, Mommy." It wasn't about the money. It was about Stephen himself. She had already fallen for him, genuinely, wholly. Later that night, as Stephen hunched over his laptop, absorbed in work, Jessica sat up beside him, heart pounding as she spoke. "Stephen," she began. He made a small sound of acknowledgement, barely lifting his gaze. She swallowed her hesitation and laid her heart bare. "Stephen, I've been wanting to say this for a while. I love you. I'm not asking you to feel the same right now, but can we make this official? I want us to be together, properly, forever. I can't keep living with this uncertainty." Stephen typed a few things into his laptop, eyes scanning the screen, before finally glancing at her. Sure. Can we talk about this later? I'm really busy right now." The words stung, but Jessica chose to stay hopeful. Days passed, but later never came. She called him again and again, and every time she received the same reply: "I'm busy in a meeting. I'll talk to you later." Still, Jessica didn't despair. She knew she needed to do more, give more, be more. Her heart and her determination had never been stronger. Meanwhile, something in Rachel had shifted after the day she had cleaned like an unpaid help, and in return received nothing but a pat on the head. Not long after, she made a decision so drastic it scared even her. She sold her mother's gold necklace, the one thing her mother had given her before she died. At first, she planned to give the money to Stephen, because he never stopped talking about his dreams, his ideas, all the things he could do if only he had capital. But Rachel never made it to his door. She kept thinking, what if I give him this money, and just like before, he thanks me and sends me away? What if I pour everything I have into him and he still doesn't choose me? So she stayed in her room for days, sitting on her thin mattress, turning everything over in her mind, every quiet competition she had entered for a man's affection. Is this what my parents would have wanted for my life? She wondered. Eventually, she broke. She went to the only person she knew and trusted in Lagos, Debbie. That afternoon, Rachel told her everything. The cleaning, the gold necklace, the money she almost gave away. Debbie listened without interrupting, though she bristled when Rachel mentioned the corn and coconuts. Still, She stayed quiet until Rachel finally asked, softly, "So, what do you think I should do?" Debbie exhaled sharply. "Rachel, you be fool, Sha," she said flatly. Rachel stiffened, offended, but before she could speak, Debbie went on. "You wanted to give a man money for business when he has not even claimed you? You should have done it and told me so that I would have slapped you very well." Rachel protested weakly. "Why can't you be gentle with your advice?" Debbie snapped. "You don't need gentle, you need sense. Take that money and invest in yourself. Is it only men that are allowed to make money? If the money isn't enough, find someone else and combine resources." She paused, then added more calmly, "I would have done it with you, but I don't have the money right now and I already have work. You, though, you don't have anything doing." That night, when Rachel returned to her room and sat on her mattress, she replayed every word. And slowly, she nodded. Debbie was right. She would stop proving herself and chasing validation. She would focus on what she could build. If Stephen ever decided to make things official, she would listen, but she would never be desperate to prove her worth again. She only returned the next day to pick up a few things she had left behind. But the moment she stepped into the compound, she stopped with wide eyes. On top of Stephen's roof was Jessica, barefoot, soap and bucket beside her, scrubbing the zinc sheets with fierce determination, as if the roof itself had personally offended her. A woman passing by slowed when she noticed Rachel's expression. "That girl," the woman said, nodding upward, "she don't dey there since morning, no. Even sun don't change position. E be like say she won't die for love because that zinc not strong." The roof wasn't very high, so her voice carried. "Jessica," she shouted, "get down from there. What are you doing?" Jessica glanced over her shoulder, eyes sharp. "Leave me alone," she snapped. Rachel pressed on. "Don't you understand?" she yelled. "He is not going to choose either of us. Please, get down. Keep whatever dignity you still have." Jessica stood fully now, voice rising. "You think I don't know what you are doing? You just want me out of the picture so you can have him all to yourself." Then her foot slipped. It happened fast. A sharp skid, a startled gasp, the bucket tipped, water spilling uselessly as her body fell forward. "Jessica!" Rachel screamed. That was the last thing Jessica heard before everything went dark. Jessica woke up blinking slowly. The pain hit her almost immediately, burning in her ribs, pulsing in her ankle, aching in her back. A nurse leaned over her. "Finally, you are awake." "Do you remember what happened?" the nurse asked. Jessica's mind flickered to soap, water, and the roof. "I fell," she whispered. The nurse nodded, adjusting her IV. Soon, medication dulled the sharp edges of the pain just enough. A doctor came later. "You had a fall, then lost consciousness. You sustained a mild concussion, small ankle fracture, and bruised ribs. No surgery needed, but you'll need rest," she said, then walked out. Jessica lay there staring at the ceiling. She didn't want to be alone, because alone meant thinking. Thinking meant remembering how she had woken up that morning with one goal. Go to Stephen's house, wash his roof, prove something. Prove what exactly? That she cared, that she was worth choosing. She had wanted him to come home and see her there, soap in her hand, sweat on her face, devotion written all over her body. Instead, she got a hospital bed. Then a thought came. When Stephen finds out I'm here, he'll come and see how much I care. She clung to it. Then the door opened and Rachel stepped inside. Her face softened the moment she saw Jessica. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked, her voice unsteady. Jessica scoffed weakly. "I'm fine." They both knew that was a lie. Jessica shifted slightly and winced. "Please, can I use your phone? I need to call Stephen." Rachel's concern hardened into something sharper. "You need to call Stephen," she repeated. "Jessica, you fell from his roof. You're lucky you are even awake." "I don't need your speeches," Jessica snapped. "If you're done with him, fine, good for you, but I'm not. I want to call my man." If the situation hadn't been so sad, Rachel might have laughed. Then something popped into Rachel's head. She knew it was a crazy idea and Jessica would probably not agree, especially in her current state. but she felt she had to try. In a calmer voice, hoping it would reach some rational part of Jessica's mind, she said, "Jessica, listen, I'm not trying to get you out of the way so I can take Stephen for myself. I'm not thinking about Stephen at all right now. I think that you and I should do something. I have some money, okay? And if you have some as well, we can put our resources together and start a business together. I know this may sound crazy coming from me, but you are the only other person I know in Lagos, and obviously we're not friends. But I feel like we can really build together. We both have a lot of zeal and energy, but we've been putting it in the wrong place." For a long time, the room was silent. Jessica thought about it. She couldn't lie, Rachel was making sense, but she didn't want Rachel's sense right now. What she needed was Stephen. That was all that mattered. She took a deep, painful breath, each movement reminding her of her ribs, and said, "Rachel, please, if you don't want to call Stephen for me, then just leave." Rachel felt the sting of anger rise, but she let it pass. She thought, she's going to realize sooner or later, I can't force her. Exhaling slowly, she finally said, "Fine, I'll call him." She dialed. Once, no answer. Twice, still nothing. The third time, he picked up. "Rachel, what's up? If you're calling to see me, I'm busy with meetings." "I don't want to see you," Rachel cut in. "Jessica fell from your roof today while she was washing it. She's in the hospital and she wants to talk to you." Silence. Rachel handed the phone to Jessica without a word. Jessica pressed it to her ear, forcing her voice to sound weaker than it already was. "Stephen, please, come. I'm in a lot of pain." There was a pause. Then, "I'll see what I can do." The line went dead. "I'll see what I can do." The words hurt almost as much as the fall. Jessica stared at the phone, then at Rachel. Rachel said nothing. She didn't need to. The pity in her eyes said it all. "If you need anything, or if you change your mind," Rachel said finally, choosing her words carefully, "just let me know." Then wrote her number for Jessica and left. For the next 2 days, Jessica stayed in the hospital, waiting for Stephen to walk through the door, imagining how romantic it will be. In her head, he'd walk in, see her in this fragile state, and finally confess his love and make things official. On the third day, he finally came. He looked sharper than before, more focused, like a man with somewhere to be. Jessica's heart leapt. She pushed herself upright too quickly, pain screaming through her body, but she didn't care. "Stephen," she said, breathless, "you came." "Yeah," he replied, scratching the back of his head. "So, how are you?" "I'll be better when I get out of here," she said quickly, "when I can be with you again." He hesitated. "Well," he said, "I actually came for something." Her heart stilled. "What?" "That akara you made," he said. "My guys have been asking for the recipe. It was really good." She stared at him. Days of waiting, of imagining, of hoping. For akara. A small part of her whispered, "At least he came." She crushed it immediately. Jessica swallowed, ignoring the ache in her ribs as she shifted slightly on the bed. The pains flared, sharp enough to make her hiss, but she didn't look away from him. Not this time. "Stephen." He looked up, surprised by the firmness in her voice. "I've done so much for you these past months," she said, slowly, carefully, as if each word needed to stand on its own. "I cooked for you and your friends. I showed up every time you needed something." He opened his mouth, but she didn't stop. "I fell off your roof. Your roof, Stephen, because I was washing it for you. And you come here, see me like this." She gestured weakly to the IV, the bandages, the hospital bed. "And the only thing you can think to ask me for is an akara recipe?" The room went quiet. Stephen exhaled slowly, rubbing his face like he was tired, like she was exhausting him. When he finally spoke, his tone was defensive, almost annoyed. "Don't make me sound like a villain," he said. "I never asked you to do all of those things for me." The words landed hard. Not loud nor cruel, but final. Jessica blinked. For a moment, she thought she'd misheard him. She repeated it in her head. "I never asked you to do any of them." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Stephen shifted his feet, clearly uncomfortable now. "If you don't want to give me the recipe, that's fine. I'll just go." Something inside her reset. Jessica lifted her head. Her voice, when it came, was quiet but steady. "Yeah," she said. "That's exactly what you should do." He hesitated for half a second, then nodded, relieved. He turned and walked out of the room without looking back. The door closed softly behind him. Jessica stared at it long after he was gone. For the first time in months, she didn't replay his smile in her head. She didn't twist the moment into hope or tell herself she just needed to try harder, love better, sacrifice more. She saw it clearly. Everything she had done, every meal, every favor, every naira, every bruise, she had done it, foolishly believing it would lead somewhere. And despite all of it, he hadn't chosen her. She closed her eyes, letting the truth settle heavy in her chest. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was the end. After 2 more days of lying in the hospital bed, thinking about her life, Jessica was finally discharged. Physically, she felt better, but emotionally, she was crushed. As she walked out of the hospital gates, she barely made it 2 steps before she sank down onto the bare ground. She didn't know what to do. She had poured everything into someone who valued the oil she fried akara more than he did her. What would she tell her mother? Then an idea came to her. There was only one person in the world who truly understood how she felt. With a heavy heart, she pulled out her phone and dialed Rachel's number. "Hello, Rachel? Please, can we see?"
When Jessica finally arrived at Rachel's place, she broke. All the pain she had been holding back, physical, emotional, everything burst out at once. Tears cascaded freely down her cheeks as her body shook with sobs. Rachel held her awkwardly at first, unsure where to put her hands, then tighter, firmer, as Jessica cried into her shoulder. "He came," Jessica choked out between sobs. "He came, and all he asked for was akara. Rachel, akara." Rachel said nothing at first, just rubbed her back gently. "I know it hurts," she murmured. Jessica pulled back suddenly, sitting upright despite the pain. "No, you don't understand," she said, her voice breaking again. "At least you're still young. Me, I'm almost 30. My time is running out. Who is going to want me?" That was when Rachel stopped soothing. She straightened up, her tone sharp and steady. "What do you mean your time is running out? Are you going to die at 30? She snapped. "Jessica, you're still young and beautiful. You have your whole life ahead of you." Jessica sniffed, stunned into silence. "And besides," she continued, softer now, but just as firm, "I really don't think we should be so focused on men right now. Remember what I said at the hospital about starting something? I was serious. If you have capital, let's start something. We spent so long pouring our energy into building a man when we should have been building ourselves." She paused, then added quietly, "I'm serious." Jessica wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Her voice came out small. "But what if we fail? The only business I've ever done was helping my mom sell akara to her neighbors." Rachel's eyes lit up. "Perfect." Jessica blinked. "Perfect? We'll start a food business," Rachel said simply. "You know how to cook, and I'm not bad in the kitchen myself. We have skills and sense. Do you have any savings at all?"
Jessica hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Rachel smiled. Excellent. Jessica laughed weakly. Rachel, this is crazy. What's crazy, Rachel replied, is the way we've been fooling ourselves for months because of Stephen. This is us finally doing something right. So tell me, are you in or are you out? Jessica went quiet. She thought about why she had come to Lagos in the first place, before the fear, before her mother's warnings, before the insecurity about time running out. She had come to hustle, to build something, to make a name for herself, so she wouldn't spend her whole life trapped in her small village waiting for life to happen to her. Slowly, with new determination settling into her chest, she nodded. I'm in. And so it began. R&J started as nothing more than a small roadside stand. Jessica stood over hot oil every morning, frying akara until her arms ached, while Rachel handled the sauce. At first, people laughed. See them, they said, the two girls that were fighting over one man, now they are selling food by the road. Then the people who laughed started buying, and they kept coming back. The food was undeniably good, but the gist was even better. As customers ate, Jessica and Rachel entertained them with exaggerated stories of the foolish things they once did for Stephen. They told it all with humor, no shame, turning heartbreak into punchlines. What could have been embarrassing became their secret weapon. People came for their akara and stayed for the laughter. Business grew. The roadside stand became a small local booker. Long hours turned into longer lines. Months of grinding finally paid off. And one day, they realized they had enough money to do the impossible, to buy their dream space. That night, they popped open a bottle of champagne, laughing until their stomachs hurt. The location was prime, Lekki, the kind of place people whispered about before it even opened. At the opening night of R&J, Jessica flew her mother in from the village. She wanted her to see it with her own eyes, the lights, the crowd, the name on the wall, everything her hand had built. Her mother moved slowly through the restaurant, eyes wide, taking it all in, pride written plainly across her face. Later that night, when the music had softened and the guests had thinned out, Jessica sat with her and spoke honestly. She said she wasn't closed off to love, not at all, but she was done chasing men or breaking herself in half to be chosen. If love came, it would come gently. Her mother looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Seeing what her daughter had built alone, she finally understood. They hugged, long and tight, and for the first time, nothing was left unsaid. Sometimes, Rachel and Jessica stood in the corner of their own restaurant, watching it all, hardly believing it. They had actually done it, built something real, built themselves. There were nights they thought about Stephen. Of course they did. He had been part of their story, but there was nothing worth returning to. And Stephen was doing well too. His real estate business had taken off in Abuja. He was in rooms he never imagined entering, shaking hands with men he once only dreamed about. Somewhere along the line, he met Wendy, classy, elegant, the exact kind of woman he always said he would date once he made it. She was perfect. Still, there was a hollow place in his chest. At night, alone in his apartment, he found himself staring at Jessica's and Rachel's names on his phone. At first, when they drifted away, he had assumed it was temporary, that they would come running back just like before. But a year passed, then more. And though he told himself he didn't miss them, that he only missed the convenience, the attention, the unpaid labor, the truth unsettled him. Because for the first time, they had built something without him, and he felt it was already too late to ask what might have been.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and Also, let me know what you have learned from this story. So, once again, this story is an original African Folktale Nation story. Anywhere else where you see this thumbnail is a counterfeit if it's not on the African Folktale Nation channel. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate every single like, comment, and every single one of you who watches these videos. And I will see you in the next one. We remain African Folktale Nation, bringing you the most intriguing African folktales.